And finally, Sear knocked it out to center ice. Shapitzen bangs it off the boards. He takes the check there from Muller as he heads to the bench on the change, and it's picked up by Strebe. Strebe in across the line. Slap shot, and it's wide of the goal. Back to the point. Muller shot. Knocked down for the score. Eakin on the rebound. That came off the stick of Kurashev. Dumps the center ice now. Morrison knocks over the Soviet player at the blue line. Fired in back of the goal. Muller out front. Abshai couldn't get a shot away as he was tied up at the side of the goal by Kurashev. Now Arneal bumps into the Soviet player and manages to keep the puck in there. Abshai back of the net out front. And Arneal was tied up. Now it's picked up by Arneal in back of the net for Abshai. Abshai still controlling it to Arneal. His shot knocked down by the Soviet player Kalazov. It winds up in his equipment and he holds it for a face-off just as the Soviet team returns to full strength. And now Kalazov and Arneal have an exchange of words in the corner. And the Soviets bring it out. A lead pass for Kushin in the center ice area to Semenov. Semenov back to Kushin. Shot! Save! And Vasilyev couldn't grab the rebound. Back to the line. A shot just whistled wide of the goal by Kurashev. Now it's kept in by Belov. Belov to Semenov. Knocked down by Eakin. Eakin has scored the goal. Here's a 2-1 break for Canada. Morrison with Sear. Morrison shoots it. The time 7:58. Eakin drawing an assist on that goal. The Winnipeg boy with a goal and an assist, off to a good start in this Boxing Day engagement with the Soviet Union. Sear in across the line. He dodges a check at the line from Tyurikov. The puck goes loose in the Soviet zone. Shipson up along the boards. Trying to get out of there is Russian. Eakin falls and manages to get it over to Sear. Sear took a shot and it went wide. Eakin doing some good hitting in there for the Canadian team, and he in turn is belted. Morrison comes in to dish out a body check, and the Canadian team very effective with a forechecking job. Finally, the Soviets break out. After it is Gary Nyland. Nyland, according to Coach Dave King, has been one of his top performers so far in this tournament, along with Troy Murray, the captain of the club. Randy Moeller in behind his own goal, playing it up along the boards, kept in by the Soviets. Good check there as Odintsov is belted by Moeller. Off the stick of Belov, it whistled off the post and just dumped down the ice. A race for it. Moeller into the Soviet zone. A penalty going to be charged against the Soviets as Moeller was dumped as the Canadian team tries to control it in the Soviet zone. And finally, as it's touched by a Soviet player, the play is whistled down and the penalty is coming up against Team USSR.
Anatoly Semenov played with the Soviets in the 1981 Canada Cup, and he's going to be a real star in international competition. We feel that he could play on any club today in the National Hockey League.
Patrick moving in from the point, shot, and it's deflected wide by Salamov. Kept in by Kluzak from the corner. The big defenseman raced in. The Soviets back at full strength.
I think Canada played extremely well in that first period.
Let me tell you something. If that had been in the National Hockey League, there would have been 10 penalties called. I hate to say that because, you know, I'm working in the National Hockey League, but that's the way the game should be played. There was hitting. That's the way they should hit all the time. That was a hell of a first period.
Anything that surprised you about the game so far?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. I was supposed to bring up, and I'm going to tell you the difference in styles. You could take the sweaters off the Russians, put it on Canadians, the other way around. You wouldn't notice any difference. We play the same way as them now, only we hit.
And Sear for Team Canada dumps it down the ice. Good check as Morrison was hit by Biakin, but it's going to produce a penalty to the Soviets. Appeared as though he may have had his stick up a little high in stepping into Morrison.
Well, his elbow came up too, and pretty good check, I thought. Here's a replay of it now. Here's Oleg.
Biakin
doing a good check. I think that's a good body check, Don.
Interference, the call. And now in the center ice area, it's Kluzak in across the line, firing it back of the net. Belov along the boards, unable to get out. Morrison goes behind the goal. Morrison out front, they score! It's Sear! And the defenseman brings it back. His pass knocked down. Strebe manages to pick it up, brings it in across the line. He's taken in against the boards. And we have a penalty coming up against the Soviets again. Sear, who had scored the third goal in this period, he runs into a check up the line from Priyakin, and the Canadian team has to regroup, and Sear appears to be injured. Gudayasov, Roshan dodges a check in the corner from Nyland, and they flip it up along the boards, but icing is called against the Soviet team. Nyland has played a very strong tournament in the opinion of Dave King, the coach.
Don, he's going to be a very high draft. He was not drafted before because of his age, of course, and he is going to be a very high draft this year in the amateur draft in June. Plays the Portland Winterhawks, and there's not too many big 6'4" defensemen around. He's going to be a real good one, Don.
Play underway as the Soviets bring it into the Canadian zone. It's broken up at the line, but Starkov manages to keep it in. Now it's Randy Moeller going into the corner. Good body check. No really set power play unit for the Canadian team. As Coach Dave King said, the line that's up is the one that usually goes out. Now it's Morrison controlling it back to the net. To Boutillier, shot right on. The rebound is just jammed wide by Sear. Out front again. To the point now. Boutillier stops it. Scores! Now a lead pass for Vasiliev. He couldn't control it. Tyrkov back in his own zone, loses it. Here's a chance right in front as Eakin tried to center it. It goes in the corner, off turning, and they score! Half shot! Yashin in across the line. Having difficulties with Patrick, he's taken in against the boards by Patrick. Kluzak also moves in, and they hold it for a face-off. 8:41 is the time left in the hockey game. He tried to pass on the right side for Morrison, who was breaking in. And Nyland hammered Chapitsin in against the boards in front of the Team Canada bench. At the line, a pass over on the wing. Here's a 2-on-1, Wilson and Morrison. Wilson moving in the slot shot, and it's deflected up against the boards as Morrison went for the goal and collided with the Soviet goaltender Samolov. Morrison in front, can't get a stick on it, and it's cleared by Biakin. In back of the goal now, Mike Moeller gets it. Mike Moeller cutting in front, feeds it back to the line. Boutillier with his own score! Shot knocked down in front, deflected to the corner. Yashin taken in against the boards. He falls. The puck's still loose in the corner. Chapitsin comes in to help out. In the center ice area, it's Semenov for the Soviets. Too far for Vasiliev. Kluzak goes back into his own zone. The penalty coming up against the Soviet Union. Vasiliev. A high sticking call against the Soviet player. So with 5:18 remaining, another power play opportunity for Team Canada.
Don, we're seeing things that really are uncommon with the Russians, and that is taking some penalties. They're intimidated by the score.
The time 14:42.
Jim Patrick receiving some attention at the Canadian bench. He was the victim. Abshide, who plays for the Saskatoon Blades, a native of Swift Current, scored a goal, a pretty goal, earlier in this third period. Now it's Muller up front. Arneal scores! Scott Arneal, who has been robbed several times. 9 seconds remaining. The countdown has begun at the Winnipeg Arena. The Canadian team moving it back into their own zone. They're quite content to run out the clock, and it's 7-0 Canada over the Soviets in the World Junior Tournament, and that produces a standing ovation from 11,000 spectators at the Winnipeg Arena as Mike Moffat is mobbed in the Canadian goal. He had 20 saves to make during the course of this game.